some of you might know what an atom is. Well, does it ring a bell? It's anything, it's everything. It's made up of matter, which is made up of atoms. Back to atoms, they're everywhere, Does this ring a bell with the electrons? The nucleus with the protons and the neutrons? Oh, come on, the 6 protons, 6 neutrons? Okay, well, where do they all come from? The atomic theory is a theory in which is made up about the atoms. Aristotle, in 332 BC, believed that all substances were made up of the small amounts of each of the 4 elements, which were fire, air, earth, and water. But wait, fire and water everywhere? Back to the drawing board. In 400 BC, Democritus' atomic theory was all matter consists of individual particles. He also said atoms have different shapes and sizes and masses. But if it had different shapes and sizes and masses, it wouldn't be an atom. 2,000 years later, Landon Lavoisier is known for his conservation law, and that is that mass cannot be made or destroyed, and which is true because this piece of paper is the same as that piece of paper. Through 1805, Dalton studied the ratios in which elements combine with chemical reactions, which pretty much means that there's an element A, an element B, a mixture of element A and B, and a chemical mixture between A and B. So all elements are composed in tiny, indivisible particles called atoms. Atoms of the same element are identical. Atoms of different elements can be mixed together or chemically combined. And chemical reactions occur. In 1897, J.J. Thomson, whose theory was that atoms contain negatively charged particles called electrons, and positively charged matter, created the plum pudding model. So the plum pudding model is the pudding, and then you have the positive matter, and then you have the raisins, which are the neutrons. Pudding is the nucleus he's talking about, and the positive matter should be the protons. In 1909, Robert Milton discovered the charge of an electron. He is known for his oil drop experiment, and he was able to find out the mass of one electron when placing it in between a positive charged plate and a negatively charged plate. In 1909, Ernest Rutherford went against J.J. Thomson's theory. This theory was that atoms consist of a small positive charge in the nucleus of an atom and the negatively charged outside of the nucleus. But we all know that that isn't true, because if you would have a negative charge and a positive charge in 2 different places, you wouldn't have the electrons. Also known for his gold foil experiment, which means that he shot alpha rays through a gold foil, and he hypothesized that the alpha rays particles would pass through the gold foil with little or no deflection. However, when he did the experiment, he saw that although some of the alpha rays did pass through, some of the particles were deflected, which means that the atom is made up of mainly empty space except for the nucleus in the middle. 29, Louis de Broglie's theory was that electrons can act as particles and waves. And we know that that isn't true because even though the electrons, the particles, and the waves are the same, we know that the waves are heavier than the particles and the electrons. Last but not least, 1932, James Chadwick finally discovered the neutrons, putting the neutral charged particles of the protons together to create a neutron. Rutherford's model scientifically was correct.